You are now watching the Movie Juice Podcast.
The juice is loose.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Movie Juice Podcast. I'm Dylan.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm James.
Movie Juice. Movie Juice. Movie Juice.
Juice the movie.
I just did one moan. It was a pretty quick one. I was like,
Yeah, I got guttural. Yeah.
I burp.
That's okay. Here.
That's pretty guttural.
Yeah, you're a good guy. I love it.
That's right.
All right, so this week we watched.
Mallrats.
I was gonna drum.
Oh, man, fuck your
You drummed
drums.
for a second.
It would have been more appropriate to do the drums when we did the monkey. Because that actually involved a drum set.
So, had you guys ever seen this movie before?
Yeah.
Anybody die?
Yeah, I've also seen this movie.
It's one of my favorites. I like it. It's fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
It's a comfort movie. for
It's
me.
a good movie.
Yeah, it's good. I used to watch it a lot when I was younger. It was on the cable channels a lot.
Oh, yeah.
On the tube.
It's not my favorite out of the View Askew universe, but it's definitely like up there.
It's up there
It's
for
one of
me.
mine.
Honestly, I don't think there's a View Askew movie that I dislike.
Same.
Me neither. That I've seen. I haven't seen all of them to be
Yeah.
fair.
Actually.
I've never seen Dogma, but it's because it's never been any
I've
fucking
never
way.
seen Chasing Amy.
I've
seen
only
both
watched.
of those,
I've
but I've never
watched.
seen Clerks 2 or 3.
I've only watched like half of Chasing Amy,
No.
and that was years ago, and I don't even barely remember it.
I feel like Chasing Amy is going to be one of those where it's like it's either going to end up being like one of my favorites or like I'm going to hate it.
Yeah.
Because it's like a different kind of spot, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being
It was
super
like his first
funny.
kind of thing going into like more heart and like
Yeah.
drama.
Yeah, it's kind of a romantic movie, I
Yeah.
believe.
Hey, you're a romantic kind of movie.
But would you guys recommend this movie?
For sure.
For sure. I think it's a fun time.
I would also recommend this movie, especially if you like comedies, because it's like a good comedy movie for sure.
I agree.
With some heart too, which is always good.
Oh, yeah.
A couple boobs, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Oh yeah.
So-
we like those.
You guys want to go ahead and get ready to step up to the juicer?
Let's step up to the juicer.
Let me just squeeze it. Well, actually, D, you didn't give us your notes.
Oh yeah, did not. Yeah. Well, let's back up from the juicer real quick.
Yeah.
We
Hold
gotta.
on, we're not ready to juice quite yet.
No, we gotta get our safety stuff on.
Yeah, I'm putting on my goggles now and my snorkel.
I'm just going to put on an apron, I guess.
Yeah, bro. No,
Other-
you wear the gloves.
Other PPE.
There you go. This movie released October 20th, 1995.
Heyo.
It had a budget of $6.1 million, and box office it raked in $2.1 million. So this was his first flop. Second movie, first flop.
Well,
So
it's not too good.
yeah,
But I'm sure it later gained cult status
it for sure
in
did.
the home video market, I'm sure, considering it was 1995.
19 and 95.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, hey man, that's just the way it was back then. A lot of movies that we celebrate now didn't do very well in movie theaters. I feel like though back then, like there weren't as many like wide release movies. You know, I don't know if that's a thing or not. Can you find how many theaters it was in?
Maybe.
Because
Somewhere. I know you can.
a lot of times that's on
actually, the film grossed $400,000 on its Friday opening on 800 screens, and $1.2 million on its opening weekend, and grossed an overall total of $2.1 million at the box office. And Mallrats was subject of much critical derision when it was released, with many critics comparing it unfavorably to Smith's first film, Clerks. In his negative review of the film, critic Robert Ebert
Fuck him.
gave the
he's
film
dead now, so.
1.5 stars out of 4 and said, before Mallrats was released, I chaired a panel that Smith participated in, and Kevin Smith cheerfully said he'd be happy to do whatever the studio wanted if they'd pay for his films. At the time, I thought he was joking. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Ebert wasn't a nice
Ebert was a
guy.
fucking prick.
He was,
Yeah,
yeah,
he
like
was.
he's notoriously known for being an asshole.
Yeah, but
On review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 58% based on 48 reviews, with an average rating of 5.6 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, Mallrats colorfully expanded the View Askew universe, even if its snoochie was lost a few of the Bucci's boasted by its beloved predecessor.
We should start looking at the tomatometer.
I feel like it's
because I do like the critic and consumer consensus.
I feel like it's unfair to compare this movie to Clerks. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
I know you're going to, especially that early on, when there's only 2 movies to really debate on, if that makes sense.
And it has a score of 41 on Metacritic.
I feel like this movie's a lot different than Clerks, you know? Like, it's a similar, like, humor style, but that's really where it changes.
Because this one has, like, a narrative of characters who go through multiple, like, settings and locations.
Yeah, instead of just being, stuck to one area.
Right.
So, I don't know. Because I really like this movie. I would almost say I like this movie more than Clerks. I don't think that will be I don't know. Maybe you guys feel that way, too.
I love both of them equally.
I think. There was supposed to be a sequel, but now with Doherty dying, I don't know if that's ever gonna.
Yeah.
But then again, he's also said that since 2015, he said there's gonna be a sequel, and still no sequel. But
yeah, I mean, like,
I'm not.
Doesn't need it.
I don't think it ever became a cult classic because normally it says it on Wikipedia. And I'm not seeing anywhere where it said it's a cult classic.
Yeah, maybe not. Well, I will say I really don't hear a lot of people talk about Mallrats.
Yeah, I think Clerks, Chasing Amy, and Dogma, and even Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back to a certain extent are like very well favored. That people kind of probably just look over it and kind of forget that it's there. Because I mean, like,
but I don't know, man. I don't know if I'd put Chasing Amy in that because I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that one either.
Yeah, well, I was just naming off the ones in the View universe, but because I mean, hell, even Clerks 2 is probably more looked at than this, based off of what I'm seeing here. But there was 3 different versions of it, though. You have I lost my place there. But yeah, there's 3 separate versions. You got the theatrical, home video, and the extended version.
I don't know which one we watched. Do you know which one we watched?
Probably just.
What did they say they were called?
Theatrical, home video, and extended.
The extended, I think, is not what we watched. The extended is the one I was telling you guys about, where they're at the governor's ball.
So we must have watched the home video release.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think that whole scene I was telling you about is in the deleted scenes, on the DVD we watched.
Now I am ready to step up to the juicer if you guys are.
Hell yeah. Let's step up to that fucking juicer. There you go.
Yeah, I can't remember the noise I made last time.
I think it was pretty on par with that.
Yeah, probably. There's not many squishing noises I got. Anyway.
The movie starts.
Universal.
And then Universal again.
Why does it show Universal twice? That's what Dylan said. And then there's also Gray Mercy Pictures.
Yeah, which I've never really heard of them.
And then it starts off with a monologue.
One time my cousin got a cat stuck up his ass. He bought it from the mall. He buys another cat to get the gerbil out. I kind of just paraphrased.
Well, so it's his cousin Walter. He gets a cat stuck in his ass. He was on the news and it embarrassed their entire family, but they let it blow over. Then the next week, he got another cat stuck in his ass. And they were like, what the fuck, dude? And then Brody ran into his cousin at the mall and he was buying another cat. And he was like, dude, why are you buying another cat? It's just going to end up in your ass. And then he says, well, how else am I going to get the gerbil out? And then he says, Cousin Walter was a weird guy.
How do you get a cat stuck up your ass?
Yeah, for real.
That's what I want to know. Like, how many things was he putting in his ass to blow his anus out that bad?
I don't know, man. I guess
at least 3, 4 if you count the gerbil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you find out there's a production company called Alpha Bill that had to do with this. Alpha View, I'm sorry. And then the View Askew universe stuff, whatever. And then it's the title card. And then there's like a very long opening of like comic books.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
And they use DC and Marvel in the styles or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's boobs. Like there's Fantastic 2 talking about boobs. And then then there's a girl and she's sitting down on some steps. And the dude rolls up in a car and he's talking to her about their trip to Florida.
Yeah.
They're going to Universal.
And she's like,
have you seen Julia Dwyer yet?
yeah. Apparently he saw her last night at the video store.
Video
game store.
And she was going to be on this game show that Brandy's dad's doing.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, well, be careful. The camera adds like 10 pounds.
And then apparently this girl had a really bad case of body dysmorphia from whenever they were younger, and she's lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
But she gets scared, so she goes to a swimming pool.
Yeah, and does 700 laps, and on that 700th lap, she has a brain aneurysm and dies in the pool.
She's fucking dead.
And, like, I pointed out while we were all watching it together, but I'm pretty sure they referenced that same thing in Clerks.
Because that's the funeral they go to.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then you find out that the sister of that girl, Julie, told their parents about it, and then that's how the father found out, and he's pissed because he's down his contestant for his show.
Yeah.
So like, it's funny, like, you know, a girl died and nobody really cares.
Yeah, nobody really gives a shit.
And then like at some point in that, it pans to Brandy's dad, and he's like dancing in a towel.
Yeah.
And I put Brandy's dad as Yondu.
Yes.
It's Michael Rooker.
Because she's like, oh, he's very tore up about it. He's just in there punching the air, doing jiu-jitsu kicks in the towel.
Yeah.
Well, he's excited about it because Brandy volunteered to be the contestant on the show.
Yeah.
Which means that their trip to Florida isn't going to happen anymore because T.S., that's the dude's name, and Brandy were going to go to Florida together.
But now T.S. is all butthurt about it, and he's like, oh, why are you letting your father control your life? And she's like, well, he asked me to do it.
Well, she also says, like, she's helping him out of this bind that T.S. is responsible for, which is true. And then, yeah, you see his butt.
Yeah, he's kind of being an ass, or like T.S. is being an ass about the whole thing.
And then you see Michael Rooker's butt.
Yeah.
The towel drops, you see his booty.
Hey, no, that's Mary Poppins, yo.
That's Mary Poppins, yo. And then they end up breaking up.
Yeah.
Because they get into a fight over this, and Brandy tells T.S. that he should just go and date her father because they're so much alike. They're both selfish.
Honestly, with how much of an ass he was being, her breaking up with him was justified, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And then it cuts to...
Same with this next breakup.
Then it cuts to Brody, and he's sleeping, and there's a girl, like, beating on his head.
He, like, knocking on his head, which, I mean, that probably pissed me off, too, if someone woke me up like that.
And then he tells her to go back to sleep.
Because it's 9:30 in the morning.
It's like 9:30 in the morning, yeah.
She's like, it's 9:30. He's like, well, go back to sleep.
Also, bro, how are two people sleeping in that tiny-ass twin?
Yeah.
Fuck that, dude.
Hey.
Especially the way he was sleeping. His head was, like, straight up.
Yeah, he was like up against the headboard.
Yeah.
Not me.
I put pretty sick Spider-Man poster.
Yeah, I put his room is cool.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, Punisher.
He has X-Men, and then he has
this big-ass Comedy Central thing.
What else did he have? He had another one. He has a Tremors poster.
Yeah. That's cool. And he also has a gaming console.
Yeah, he has a Sega Genesis because he starts playing video games.
Yeah.
And he's like playing fucking like hockey or something stupid.
Yeah. I also put rip to Shannon Doherty.
Yeah, R.I.P. It's kind of weird because her character almost hooks up with a dude named Shannon in this movie.
Yeah.
And Shannon's her name in real life.
Yeah.
Look at that. And then
she wants breakfast.
Yeah,
she wants breakfast, and he says, well, breakfast comes and goes, but the Whales only beat Vancouver twice in a lifetime, and he's literally playing a fucking video game. You can beat them anytime, you fucking doofus.
Yeah, I know, for real.
And then
and she's complaining about not meeting his mother.
Yeah, and how he's afraid of his mom. She has to sneak in and out. And he's like, well, if she knew what we were doing in here, she would be happy. And she's like, well, what do we do in here? You just play video games. She's never been introduced to the mom. And he brings up how she's always in the bathroom and asks what she does in there. And she says that she cries, which is kind of sad.
It's super sad.
She says that she cries in the bathroom because she thinks about engineers and doctors and navigators, people that are waking up and doing things with their lives, and she has nothing better to do than to go and fuck Brody.
Oof.
Which... that would be a rough one to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Plus a rough one to say.
Cause like the way she says it, then just walks it, just like.
Well, she also throws a letter at him as she says it and hops out the window.
Yeah, and then she breaks up with him in that letter.
Yeah.
And then T.S., the guy from the first scene, shows up to Brody's house. You find out that they're boys. And Brody has a fuckload of comic books.
Oh, yeah.
And then he talks about how Renee dumped him and said that he doesn't have a cock, because she does say that.
And he called him Callow.
Callow, yeah. And he's like, I thought that was a compliment, but you find out that means frightened and weak-willed, which I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, I didn't either. But yeah, like, the motherfucker framed the breakup letter. Like, what a cock.
That's funny. And then they talk about how they've both been dumped. And T.S. is like, hey, I was going to propose at Universal when Jaws pops up.
Yeah.
And Brody thinks that's the coolest fucking thing ever.
Yeah.
And he's like, too bad I'm not marrying you.
And then Brody's like, he has his theory. He says, did you ever fart in front of her?
Yeah.
And he talks about how he had never farted in front of Renee, and then he finally did it last week, and then she dumped him.
Yep.
Yeah, well, it's because she was going down on him.
Yeah. He did it while she was sucking his dick. So
Yeah,
I guess.
because he said he was feeling relaxed, and when he feels relaxed, he squirts, is what he said.
Understandable.
T.S. says, if all she did was dump you, then you got off light.
And then they kind of start talking about going to the mall.
To kind of cheer themselves up.
Yeah.
There's no better place than going to the mall full of flowers.
Brody's the one that says that, but T.S. says he'd rather be a part of a ritual suicide.
Yep.
And then Brody's like, well, there's awesome cookies there. And then it cuts to them walking into the mall, and Brody screams, I love the smell of commerce in the morning.
And then he bumps into the fashionable male employee.
Yeah, I just call him Ben Affleck for the longest time.
Yeah. I put Ben Affleck bumps into him, and he spills his little tiny ass drink.
And you find out he's the manager at the fashionable male store.
Yep.
And then TS talking about how he misses Brandy, and fucking Brody's like, "Hey man, Brandy's in the past."
He's like, you need to look forward, and then he smacks into a big fucking thing this guy's carrying.
Yeah, he moves
Oh,
into a big
God,
metal
yeah.
piece.
TS is like, you should have taken your own advice.
And then there's like this big fat dude. It's the big fat dude that was in like everything back then. I don't remember his name. I know his name in the movie is William, but like, do you remember that actor's name? The one with
Something.
the sailboat. He's not a fat dude anymore.
It's Ethan something.
Yeah.
I know his name's Ethan.
He's definitely not the fat dude anymore. That he like got ripped.
No, he got really fucking ripped.
Yeah, but he was like the stereotypical fat guy in like everything.
Yeah.
back in the day.
Ethan Suppley.
Suppley. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's also in My Name is Earl.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's in the Butterfly Effect too.
Yeah.
Oh, and his name is Willem, by the way, not William.
Yeah,
Oh.
I have his name as
Yeah.
Willow for the longest.
Yeah.
time.
Well, I
swear
just
they said
that's-
Willow.
happened to see it when I looked at his characters. It's Willem.
Willem, and then you find out that he's looking for a hidden picture, and it's it's like one of those things where it's like it looks
Magic
like
guy.
TV static.
Yeah, and everyone else can see a
I
sailboat.
never see these either, so I don't. I resonate with him because I also didn't see them either.
Then you find, but the picture that's hidden in it is a sailboat, and Willem has been staring at it for a week, from open to close, and he cannot find it. But today he's gonna find it. He brought a lunch and a soda, and he's not gonna leave until he sees the sailboat.
Yeah, and
Then they start talking about the stage that's being built, because you find out the game show that Brandy is going to be on
yeah, filmed at the mall.
is being filmed at the mall.
They never do anything like that at our mall.
Well, yeah.
They did it.
Ball's also dead nowadays.
Yeah, that was
They
like
did a
30
talent
years ago.
They did a talent show there like 10 years ago.
The world we were born into no longer exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Willem tells them that like they're breaking his concentration, so they end up leaving. And Brody says that they should go and destroy the stage. And TS said that's a good way to get back into Brandy's good graces by destroying her father's show. And then Brody's like, "Yo, I know these two guys that'll do it." And then pans to Jay and Silent Bob.
The coolest motherfucker.
And Jay's like knocking on the glass window outside the pet store because there's kittens in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's going, kitty, kitty, kitty.
And Bob's been trying to do the Jedi mind trick.
On a cigarette.
He also
Yeah.
calls Bob the fat chick killer.
Yeah.
That was funny.
He
No,
has-
wait, I'm sorry. He doesn't call Bob that. He calls TS that, talking about that girl that died.
Yeah.
Which I thought was funny, yeah. And then Silent Bob's trying to do the Jedi mind trick because he just watched Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, because he knocks like three or four cigarettes out of his hand. He's like, "Knock it off."
And then they start talking about how they need somebody to help them destroy the stage.
Yeah, and Jay has Bob has the blueprints for it.
Yeah, and then you also find out they're dodging this girl named Trisha.
Yeah.
And they end up accepting the offer to destroy the stage because they were going to do that anyway because they had nothing better to do.
Yeah.
Do that anyway.
And
The only problem is LaFours. I wrote his name down as LaFleur, not LaFour.
yeah, it's LaFours or whatever.
Yeah.
And
He's like the most feared security guard.
apparently he has.
With a straw hat, looking like a little dweeb.
Yeah, the hat thing threw me off.
Apparently he has 2 kills allegedly.
Allegedly.
And then Jay says that he's gonna be like Wolverine, and he starts making like pretend claw noises, snickety
Snickety,
sticky.
snickety, snick.
Yeah.
They go to leave, and Jay turns and says, "Bye, baby kitties."
Yeah.
And then he says, "Damn, Silent Bob, show some love. No, show some heart." And then he goes. Psst, psst, psst. And then the group kind of goes their separate ways. TS and Brody go one way, James Silent Bob the other.
We come back to Willem looking at the sailboat.
And then a bunch of kids show up, and they're like, "Wow, it's a schooner."
And he was
no,
like,
you dumb bastard!
"Bastard."
It's a sailboat.
And they said,
That's
He's
what
like,
a
"That's the
schooner
same."
is.
and then he gets fucking crazy, and he goes,
The Easter Bunny's not real.
because you find out that the kids are there to see the Easter Bunny. And he says, "There is no Easter Bunny! Just a guy in a suit!"
And then it pans back to Brody and TS talking about Superman coming in low.
After they get cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's talking about like what would happen if Superman come in there, and he was like his load would shoot right through her.
Like a shotgun.
Yeah.
She could not like hold the baby.
Her womb
Krypton
wouldn't be
baby.
able.
Yeah, he says only Wonder Woman's uterus is strong enough to carry Superman's baby.
And then he says if he wanted to fuck just a normal chick, he'd have to have a kryptonite condom,
Which would kill him.
which would kill him. And then they start talking about the difference between the food court.
Yeah, the logistics of the food court
How would
and
kryptonite condom kill him? Because like it's not piercing him. Kryptonite just makes him lose his powers. So
Yeah.
it doesn't actually
It
kill
wouldn't
him.
kill him.
Yeah.
He's
It
right.
would just make him. It would just make him vulnerable. to
Yeah.
shit. So it wouldn't kill him. It wouldn't kill
vulnerable
him.
for falling in love.
But like if he put it on and then someone stabbed him, yeah, he could die.
So what would need to happen is Lex Luthor would need to figure out a way to make kryptonite condoms without Superman finding out.
Yeah.
And then he would need to be tracking Superman, so when Superman starts to fuck, then he can swoop in. kill Superman
Stab that motherfucker.
whenever he's vulnerable.
Just be like, hey, yo, these condoms are glow in the dark.
Nah, Superman would know. He'd be like, oh, okay, cool. But he doesn't know that Lex Luthor necessarily made him, because it'd be like this whole plot to kill Superman.
Maybe we'll make a Superman movie where they incept the idea to make kryptonite condoms into Superman's brain.
Oh, that's an even
It's
better
like
idea.
Inception, but Superman. And then at the end of it, Superman dies.
Superman dies.
Hell yeah.
He's died before.
Better plot than Doomsday.
Damn right. They could probably bring it back a better way, too.
Better than Dawn of Justice.
Anyway,
Yeah.
they talk about how the cookie stand is different from the food court, which it is, because it's not in the food court. Now, if the cookie stand was in the food court, it'd be part of the food court.
But
Since it's not there, it's just a snack.
that's how our mall's set up too.
Yeah,
Like they have
I
a food
agree.
court, then there's like downstairs you got a cookie place
And a pretzel shop.
and a pretzel shop
Mid-mall snack?
and a coffee shop.
And a coffee shop.
Mid-mall snacking.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I remember that one store we'd go into. We'd go in there and get monsters.
Yeah.
yeah,
The
yeah,
coffee
shop.
Yeah.
Dude, I had their hot chocolate,
Pretty
and
good.
it's fucking delicious.
Shit, hell yeah.
And then you see Renee, and she's like in a store. So Brody goes in there, starts talking to her,
Yeah,
and he says that they need to divide their mutual possessions. And he says that she has a couple of his comics in the TV remote.
and she's like, if I have them, it's because you left them there.
Why'd this motherfucker bring his TV remote to her house?
Man, that is weird.
Yeah,
Like, what the fuck were you doing, dude?
unless he has like one of those universal remotes, and he just went over there and she didn't have a remote and just did it that way.
That's
Mhm.
true. That's possible.
Mm.
And then he also talks about they need to talk about visitation rights
About the mall, which
for the
is
mall, which is like the dumbest thing I've ever fucking heard.
exactly.
Funny though, I get it.
And I guess just
I
because
get the sentiment,
he doesn't
but-
want to see her, which
Yeah.
is fine. I understand
Let's
that.
go to a
But
different mall, big dog.
Yeah.
Go to a different mall.
But
Just,
it's his mall, he says. So.
Yeah.
and then she starts talking about all the things she used to do for him, how she did the striptease, how she stripteased for him to the theme song of Mighty Mouse, and
Which is fucking crazy.
slept under his bed because like his mom came home or something. And then he told everyone at her grandma's funeral that he could see his grandma's nipples. And she was like, I'm not going to put up with this shit anymore now that we're broken up. So basically telling him, like, I'm not going to fucking listen to your bullshit mall visitation rights.
Yeah.
I'm just going to come here when I fucking want. Which, like, you go, girl. I
Yeah.
understand.
She's basically like, fuck you and the horse you rode in on.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. And then it goes back to Jay and Silent Bob. And they have, like, a scheme to break this stage down. And Jay says that he can't. It's like you're gonna run up to the Silent Bob's gonna attack LaFleur's with a
Sock filled with
quarters.
coins. Yeah.
And Jay can't do it because he pulled a muscle humping Silent Bob's mom.
Hurt his back.
And then while they're going over this, a kid shows up and Bob like shoos the kid away. So Bob goes and starts running at the security guard
Force.
with the sock. And while he's running, the kid sees him, the one he just shoot away. So he slides a truck, like a toy truck, at Silent Bob, and Silent Bob accidentally like steps on it and goes flying the other way.
Yep.
And then he gets shot into a dressing room.
Yep. You don't see boobs here.
You don't see boobs yet.
But Gwen's in there. We don't know her name yet, but
Gwen's in there, yeah. And then it comes back to Brody and TS.
yeah,
and
Brody's being a dick about a kid.
on an escalator.
Yeah.
And he's
Well, here's my note. I said Brody's being a dick to this kid, and I said, fuck that stupid overall wearing bitch.
yeah, you're right. Well, honestly, he's right, man. Like, he said that the kid should die to teach his mom a fucking lesson.
Because why are you letting your kid sit down on the fucking escalator?
Yeah, like, I don't think the kid should die, actually, but, like, I get his point, kind of, because it's like, yeah, you're a terrible parent for letting your kid do that,
Yeah.
I think.
Because like his clothes could easily get stuck in the thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, is he going to get sucked in? Probably not, but, like,
But no.
there's just no point in it,
All right.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It's like super fucking preventable, and you're doing the one thing that doesn't prevent it.
Yep,
Yeah.
and he says you need to fear and respect the escalator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
Which is funny, it's like his hill to die on, basically.
And then
Because he keeps bringing it the fuck up.
they go up to this girl named Trisha.
Yeah.
And,
I wrote her in my notes as Trish, and then I realized later that her name was actually Trisha.
Yeah.
Trish Dish.
They call her Trish the Dish.
And
because-
she's 15 years old, but also a senior. And she's the oldest fucking 15-year-old I've ever seen in live action.
And you find out that she's Trish the Dish because she fucks a lot of dudes.
Yeah, because she looks 30. I'm
But
sure
for
the actor.
science.
But it's for
It's
for
books he writes.
research,
Yeah.
which I think
Yeah.
is just
Yeah,
whatever.
it's wild.
And
but
she
like
videos it too.
all of these characters look way older than the age they're supposed to be.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Because like I don't know, man. Like I've always seen Jason Lee, and he always just looks like he's 40.
Yeah.
Like no matter what he's in. And it's weird that he's trying to portray like I guess like a teenager maybe, like an 18-year-old
I think
at
they're in like
least.
college.
Bro, we should
Okay.
watch Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Maybe one day.
That'd be a fun Jason Lee.
Whenever we run out of shit, I guess we'll start doing those.
But whenever they went up to her, they knocked this calendar out of her hand, and she's like explaining to them how she has sex with these dudes.
Yeah, and it's like the weirdest fucking thing.
It's like smileys
with lashes and just circles.
Circles for sex.
It was honestly like I didn't care enough to write it all.
I didn't write it
Circle
down
with
either.
the X is when she has an orgasm.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I didn't write it down.
And then you find out that the kid's on the escalator again because Brody's yelling about it.
Yeah, and she just slept with a 25-year-old
That hates Brody.
And
it's Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
And Dylan mentioned that she has a weird mouth during this time.
Yeah. It was the way she spoke, and I was like, man, her mouth is weird.
And then the kid's on the escalator again. And
this time he actually gets fucking stuck.
Women want romance, not Mr. Toad's wild ride. Because she finds out that she talks about how T.S. was going to propose to Brandy.
Yeah.
Everybody knows now. And that's why she says that. And then she calls Brody Sega Boy because everybody knows everybody's business here. And then she also tells him good luck with the comic book store. Which I guess is talking about the next scene, which is whenever they go to the comic book store and there's a giant line outside of it.
And Brody and Steve Dave get into it, and they start tussling.
And then it's funny because while they're tussling, he says, just because a guy reads comics, he can't start some shit? I was like, word, that's solid.
And the cops start pulling them off, and they have to run because a kid got stuck in the escalator.
Well, you also find out that Stan Lee's the reason why they can't go in.
Yeah. Well, because like T.S. punks a bald dude, and he's like, "Oh, don't hurt me." And then he says Stan Lee is there signing comics.
And then it's another plan with Bob and Jay, Silent Bob and Jay.
Yeah.
And he tells him not forget his helmet.
Don't forget your helmet, Snoogans.
Because he's gonna swing and take out the security guard, and he's gonna fly and pull this little latch thing that's gonna make the stage fall apart, basically.
Yeah.
And whenever he tries, he's dressed like Batman.
And he goes, "Fly, fat ass, fly."
And he misses the security guard, and he misses the pin, and then he goes and flies into a dressing room, and you see boobs.
Yep.
Fuck yes.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
And then he goes through. Oh yeah, and that also is funny because whenever it like shows the outside, it shows where like the dressing room had like a lady on it, and he went through where like her skirt was. So
yeah.
It looks like he's like in her vagina.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of funny. And then they're talking about. Sorry, you go ahead.
Well, then it pans to Brody and T.S. at the food court.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't know how Stan Lee's in my mall, and I never found out about it. I must be slipping because of my old age. And
probably, because dude looks 40.
And then you find out, or they start talking about how the game show is a ploy by the father to make T.S. and Brandy break up.
Yeah.
They talk about that for a second. And he's like, I wasn't going to marry her until after we graduated college.
Yeah, and that's when Jay and Silent Bob pop up, and he's like, "Yo, we can't do this plan. We gotta stop before Bob kills himself."
Also, it was funny because Brody had a pretty quotable line where he says, "My grandma always used to say, why buy the cow when you can get the sex for free?" And I was like, oh, okay, I don't know what that means. And and then Jay and Silent Bob show up, and like they said, they hide because of that. And also, the security guard LaFleurs is chasing them.
Yeah.
And then they're all sitting there together, and Brody sees Renee, and she's now with Ben Affleck.
Yep.
Who is a diabolical son of a bitch. And T.S. follows. He trails them.
Yeah,
because they're outside of an elevator.
Yeah, and T.S. distracts Affleck, and then Brody kind of just picks Renee up and just throws her in there.
And then he's like, "Are you really like gonna hang out with the dude that looks like a date?" And then he calls him the Sperminator, and she's like, "Well, he would clearly make a better companion than you," because she talks about how he was at work at 9 o'clock in the morning, and he's gonna do all this stuff for her already.
He already took me to the stores I like to shop at.
Yeah.
And I've already met his mother. And it's like, bro, y'all literally broke up this morning. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Because he's also saying that Affleck's all testosterone. She's like, I need testosterone after you and all your comic books.
Yeah, she was like, I forgot what it was like to be with a real man. It's like, damn, okay. And he's like, well, this is my mall. Okay.
No.
All right, dude.
No, you're just a guy that comes in here a lot. That doesn't make it yours.
And then he's like, I took you shopping. I wish I took you shopping all the time. And she's like, yeah, you took me to where you wanted to go. I don't care about comic books and all your bullshit. And then she attacks his libido.
Yeah, like basically after like tearing him down, she gives up the stanky on his hang down.
Yeah, he ends up banging his fucking ex out on the in the elevator, which like good on
Yeah.
you. And then they get done and he does a little dance and he's like, that was romantic, right? Passionate? Yeah. And she says, too little, too late. And he says, "You said it was a good size." And she's
So
like,
the effort, dumbass.
and then she says, and also whenever a girl says it's a good size, it's a nice way of saying it's small.
Yeah, I wrote the same thing though.
It's true.
It is. you hate to see it.
You hate to see it. Hey, most of us men have felt that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's okay. And then she gets out of the elevator, and Ben Affleck is like, "What the fuck? My name's Ben Affleck. I have a butt chin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play Daredevil in 8 years." You know, like anyway, whatever.
He was also Batman at one point.
He'll be Batman in
However
20.
many years.
Yeah. And you know he's a fucking douche. And she's like, "He's harmless now. Don't worry."
Is he?
And
No.
he's not, because they literally just had sex. Like,
Yeah.
And then they run down the stairs, and he's like telling his boy what happened. And TS is like, "Wow, you really love that girl, man, because y'all just had sex and you're glowing." And he's like, "You want her back, don't you?" And he's like, "No, I don't want her back." And it's like, of course he wants her back, bro. They literally broke up this morning.
Right.
Yeah.
What are y'all on about?
They didn't nut it in her.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
probably fucking did. That or he pulled out and splooged all over that goddamn elevator,
Yeah.
which
Oh.
is cool.
Yeah.
Respect.
Yeah,
Respect.
respect.
And then Gwen pops up and scares TS, and she gets fucking elbowed right in the
tit.
tit.
Right in the tit. And then she kicks him square in the fucking balls. And then she's like, "Brody, you're glowing. What happened?"
He said, "Why is everyone saying that?"
And then you find out that Brandy and Gwen were talking, and Brandy told Gwen that they broke up.
Yeah.
TS and Brandy, I should say.
Everybody knows whenever you nut from sex, you always glow.
Yeah,
True.
I fall asleep
Yeah, me
normally.
too. Me too.
I'm like, okay, it's Betty by time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, and then I say, "Will you hold me?"
Yeah, once you get your rocks off, it's nighty night time.
Yeah, bro, it's time to be a little boy. Go
dude.
bed.
Time to go sweepy by.
Yeah, and then Gwen's like still rubbing her tit, and Brody offers to rub it for her, and she's like, "No." And then it cuts to the stage, and it's like a worker dude moving the podium, and Michael Rooker's out there, Brandy's dad. I never caught his name. I caught her last name like once, but I can't remember.
Mr. Svinning?
Spinning? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call him Michael Rooker.
Okay.
I just call him Brandy's dad.
Brandy's dad.
Call him Yondu.
Yondu.
Mary Poppins.
Yondu, Michael Rooker, Daryl, whatever. Merle. Yeah.
Merle.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
He's mean to people. Like, he's fucking yelling at this dude on stage.
Every movie I've seen him in, that's usually all he does.
Yeah. And then TS shows up to talk to him, and he's like, "Hey, you made her dump me, and now you're going to auction her off to further your own career." And he's like, "Look, my daughter needs a decent guy with a brain." And he's like telling him how proud he is of what he did. He's as proud of them breaking up as he is of his game show that he's about to have. Also, the game show is called Truth or Date.
Yeah, we never mentioned that.
Yeah, well, not yet. I know I write it down later, too, but I figured I'd go ahead and say
Well,
it
also,
now.
Willem says it earlier.
Yeah, he does. And then TS needs to just accept it. And during that,
He asked him. He was like, "Did you actually like get her to do it?" And he's like, "Will you admit it?" And he's like, "Admit it. I'm proud of it. I'm proud that she broke up with you."
yep. And then the small security is called.
Yeah.
So TS runs away, and then
Pants to
Gwen and Brody and TS
Trial.
all in the panty store.
yeah, and Gwen's trying on underwear, which thankfully she bought the pair she tried on afterwards. But
Yeah.
at first I was, I don't know if you can do that.
And then you find out that Gwen fucked a dude on a pool table in front of everyone, because this is whenever it kind of mentions that Gwen and TS were a thing
Yeah.
before Brandy, and
Yeah.
Gwen cheated on TS a lot, bitch. And
She openly admits to it. Though.
Yeah.
She knows she was a little fucker back then.
well, yeah, she talks about it later.
But she's talking now about how like oh yeah my bad, yeah, it's not yet. My bad.
It's not yet, yeah.
Sorry.
And then talks about how like she was Smokey. Wait, which one? Burt Reynolds was the bandit, right? Or was he Smokey?
Yeah.
Yeah, bandit.
He was, okay, so she was the bandit, and she got fucked by Smokey, and she was like, "Yeah, but I look like Burt Reynolds," and they're like, "Yeah, but except the mustache." And then
Also, Brody would have been a hot chick because he puts on the underwear.
Yeah. Well, and then he was like, "Isn't there a room that you should be doing this in?" And she was just like, "Well, some pervert crashed in my dressing room twice today."
that was Silent Bob.
Yeah.
And then Brody says he's getting a boner from being in there. Well, she gets a boner a few times in this movie.
Yeah. Horny guy.
And then TS is like, "What'd you tell her about the elevator?" And she's like, "What about the elevator?" And he's like, "It goes up and down." And then she starts asking him like how he felt about Renee. That's what Gwen's asking. And he starts talking about the metaphor of like sleeping next to someone, and how like you got to put your other arm somewhere whenever you're spooning. And he's like, "You're always searching for a place to put that other arm. It's a metaphor for the relationship," which I don't understand at all. But that's what he's going for.
Yeah, the cashier knew what he was talking about. She starts crying.
The
Yeah,
cashier
she
starts
walks
crying.
away.
And then the guys go to the food court. And Affleck is there. And he grabs Brody and he throws him into like the mall hall. Like the
The back
back
hallway.
part of the mall. And starts beating him
on
up.
him.
And he's like,
And
I
he
don't...
says the name of the movie.
He's like, I don't like you because you're just some mall rat.
Just some mall rat hanging around. Like I don't like motherfuckers who come in and don't have intentions of shopping.
He says, I have no respect for people with no shopping agenda. Which I'm like, all right.
What?
And then he starts telling Brody about how much of a piece of shit he is. Like, Shannon is talking about how much of a piece of shit he is. How he picks up girls on the rebound because they're easy and he likes to fuck them in uncomfortable places.
Like the back of a Volkswagen.
But that's not what Shannon says. That's what Brody says. And that's what a bunch of people say.
Yeah.
It's a catchphrase.
And I think he's talking about fucking girls in the ass. I don't know. We never really get that far.
I assume that's what he was doing to Trish.
Yeah. And,
from the angle we see later.
yeah. Well, maybe.
Either that or just doggy.
Doggy. It doesn't really look that uncomfortable, though. In that...
Well, she doesn't look that uncomfortable, probably because...
Yeah, she's been dogged out quite a few times.
Yeah.
But also, like, I don't know. Anyway, so, he says that he's going to do it in the place that girls dread, which I don't know what that means.
We pretty much alluded to it.
I guess
Maybe that's the butt.
I guess that's supposed to be the butt, but I don't think they all dread the butt. I don't know.
I think it's just supposed to imply that he's a fucking creep. You know?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. He leaves him kind of bloody in the hallway, and then we cut to
Gwen and Brandy.
Yeah.
No,
it's
Yeah, Gwen and T.S.
Gwen. Yeah, Gwen and
no, not yet. Oh
Yeah,
T.S. and Gwen.
T.S., yeah.
and they find Brody where he's all beat up.
Yeah, and Jay and Silent Bob are helping him out, and he's telling Jay and Silent Bob that the Easter Bunny did it.
And then Gwen and T.S. show up to Brody. I'm sorry, because they're talking and walking, and he's talking about them being together. And that's whenever you find out that they were a thing, and the only reason why they stayed together so long was because T.S. had cable.
Yeah.
And then, so then they show up, they say that about the Easter Bunny. Jay and Silent Bob run off to go fuck the Easter Bunny up. And then,
this is where Gwen gives us Shannon's name.
yeah, you find
Ben
out
Affleck.
his name's Shannon.
Yeah.
Shannon Hamilton. And apparently Gwen has also had sex with him.
Because, well, yeah, of course she has.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, well, we can't all be winners.
And then we got Jay and Silent Bob going to see the Easter Bunny.
Yeah. Women always leaving when you just had the crap kicked out of you. Because
Yep.
Gwen leaves T.S. and Brody.
Yeah, because she has to.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Jay and Silent Bob show up and skip the line at the Easter Bunny.
They just grab them and start
Beat the
beating them
shit
up.
And they start beating the fuck out of them, and then the kids attack them.
Yeah.
Brody.
Yeah.
What?
Every year on Easter, I share the picture of Jay and Silent Bob beating up the Easter Bunny.
And then it cuts to Brandy, and Gwen is there, and she goes to tell her that T.S. is here in the mall.
Yeah.
And Gwen starts talking about how she was very jealous of Brandy and T.S.'s relationship.
Yeah, they kind of have a nice little bonding
And
moment.
that's when Brady's like, yeah, but you used to cheat on him all the time.
Yeah, but she realized that T.S. was a great catch seeing them two together.
And then now that they're broken up, she's like, you kind of let him slip away. And he's like, well, you can have him. She's like, I might.
Yeah.
Yeah, might
She
do
says
it.
that the really good guys are few and far between. And she said that she would shoot a shot on T.S., but he's so hung up on Brandy that she's not going to.
Kind of reminded me of the night before, where like
Yeah, a little
where
bit.
The girl like even they won't let on, but like the girls talk about relationships and then don't tell each other.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They were like, because like clearly Brandy still loves him.
Yeah, well, they broke up that morning, so of course she does.
And then it pans to
T.S. and Brody again.
Yeah. And T.S. is talking about how Svenning's assistant needs to talk to both of them. And Brody tells him to stink pommel, which is when you stick your hand in your ass and then shake their hands, and the smell doesn't go away for at least 2 days.
Yeah.
And he shoves his hand right in his own butt.
Yeah,
And he says it's the small price to pay for the smiting.
Yeah.
And then T.S. walks away to go talk to him.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because when he walks away, Brody realizes that he has his ass hand and then the hand that the pretzels are in because he's eating pretzels. So he starts eating the pretzels just out of the bag. And smells his hand, and then he walks away after T.S.
Wait, come back.
And then it cuts to Michael Rooker talking to like executives.
Yep.
And they're there, and they're like, this is a dangerous mall to hold this game show in because of what just happened to the Easter Bunny this morning. And,
He's like, I assure you, this is a good place. We'll be good.
yep. And then T.S. shows back up because he wanted to see him, and he's like,
I know you fucked my dog.
I know you fucked my daughter.
He's like, I've come to terms with the fact that you fucked her, but like, no more. You guys are done.
Yeah,
You ain't
and
going
then
back.
she might be more successful than me one day, and T.S. has no chance to make it at all in the real world.
Yep.
Just obliterates this kid.
Yeah.
And then
Bro,
he
he's like 18. Calm down.
Yeah,
he
man.
grabs him and shoves his face in his face, and I put kiss him. Wait, what?
Hold him.
And then he's like, my daughter's too good for you, and you're never going to be with her. And then Brody shows up with his ass hand.
And high fives him. Just
Yeah.
high fives.
Yeah.
Mike Rooker.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, you're my neighbor," and
He's
then
like, "Oh, you're my neighbor." Like, he shakes his hand really aggressively,
and he like rubs it.
gets
Up.
in
Oh, he
there.
rubs in there.
And then he starts like looking at his ring, and he's like, "Oh, what is this?" And he's like, "Oh, this is my ring from college. I was a cum laude." And he's like, I also hope I get to cum laude in the 69 position." And then they're like, "Ah, the boys."
And then he was just like, "Hey man, I know you really like pretzels. I want some chocolate pretzels. They're a little melted, but they're still good."
And then Michael Rooker takes his ass hand. No, Brody takes his ass hand, puts it in the pretzels,
Grabs a pretzel, gives it to him. He eats the first one, and then he grabs another one, and like he goes to give it to him, and like he like rubs that shit into his hand.
Oh yeah.
Well, also, he's eating it with the ass hand. And he's like licking on that ass
hand. And then
hand.
Michael Rooker's like licking the chocolate. He's getting in there.
Yeah.
And that's ass. That's all ass. All ass.
It's all booty sweat.
Booty sweat.
And then the cops show up and arrest him. The cops show up and arrest the guys. And they're like, "Oh, fuck." And then they start getting pulled away, and they're screaming for Jay and Silent Bob and Renee.
Yeah.
And then Willem, you walk by Willem again, he's just staring at that fucking picture. Still can't find that.
And Jay offers him a big old blunt.
Yeah.
And then you'll be seeing boats and shit, all sorts of shit.
Yeah. Cause that's when Renee pops up and she's like, "Hey," she's out of breath and she's like, "T.S. Brody."
He also tells him that he's gonna see big titty mermaids doing lesbian shit.
Yeah, I was aware of that.
Yeah.
Mermaid titties.
And Renee shows up, like you said, and then she also immediately sees the sailboat.
And I was like, clearly Renee cares too, because if she went to go get Jay and Silent Bob because of fucking Brody, like clearly she still cares for Brody too, even though she's the one who broke up with him.
Yeah.
And then they're talking about like, how are you gonna arrest us? And then they pull out a bag of drugs.
Yep.
Hat drugs.
Oh, he's like, well, so Brody's like, oh, I guess he's gonna find that on us suspiciously, and they're gonna hold this till the show's over, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. And then Silent Bob shows up and hits fucking LaFleur's in the back of the head with a bat.
It was Jay.
Yeah. Jay baseball bats
he
him.
says, "Kneel before Zod."
Yeah, and he goes snoochie boochie and runs.
And then Silent Bob does like a nerve hold. That's right.
Yeah.
And then
like they're running after him, and then like because Jay's ahead of him, and then they start running after Jay, and then Silent Bob's behind him, and the Silent Bob's running, and then he runs past the cops.
And then they're like, "All right, we got to get out of here."
They duck into this little corner where
it's like a loading dock.
Yeah. And then like he's like, well, what do we do? And like Silent Bob's going through his trench coat,
pulls out a
vibrating thing.
And then he pulls out a blow up doll.
But he also has a grappling hook on his utility belt. And that's put sick. And then they get shot up into the air, and they're just kind of up there in the air.
And Jay does this little scream when they go up. He's like, "Ah!" He looks into the camera. It was pretty cool.
And then while they're up in the air, Jay compliments Silent Bob and gives him a kiss on the cheek.
Because I think it's a reference to something where he's like, "Where do you get these wonderful toys of yours?"
Yeah.
I think it's like a Batman or Spider or something like that.
Probably Batman.
Batman, yeah.
Oh yeah, because I think Joker says, "He's like, where does he get these wonderful toys?"
Yeah.
And then
he gives him a kiss on the cheek.
And then it shows that Brody and TS go to the flea market.
Yeah.
The dirt mall, that's what he calls it.
Yeah.
And they know Brody there. And TS is talking about how he feels defeated. And he's like, "Hey man, how are you defeated? You punched a girl's mom one time for calling you something." And then Brody's like, TS is like, "No, I didn't punch a girl's mom. You punched a girl's mom, and it was her grandma." And then this one, he picks up the clerk's hat.
Yep.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah. And then Brody starts talking about, because TS is like, he needs to be more like him. Brody knows so much, and Brody's like, "Dude, I just talk out of my ass all the time." And then he's like, "Yeah, or you stick your hand in it."
Yeah, he did do that.
And he's like, "Yeah, but sometimes you have a nugget of truth that slips out." And then they decide they're going to go talk to a sage to get advice.
Ivana, the topless psychic.
And then you find out that Brody loves tits.
Well, who doesn't?
I put retweet. And then TS says he loves tits as much as the next guy, and I said same. Because the next guy's this guy, and he loves tits.
I do love tits.
There we go.
Whoa.
And then, they go in there, and TS is, like, super doubtful about this, thinks it's all bullshit. And the titty lady, Ivana, I think is her name?
Yeah.
She says it's going to be $58.60 to have their...
Dude hands are all ones. There's no way that was $58.
Yeah, but TS is the one that has to pay because Brody's a bum and has no money. And then she says, "Free your mind," and Brody says, "I'd like to free something." And then she starts rubbing on her boobs.
Yeah, because she says that's the only way that she can give out advice or tell the future or some whatever she does.
And Brody starts rubbing on his dong in his pants because he's getting erect again. And then TS is like, "Dude, just cut the theatrics and show us your boobs."
She's like, "All right, cool. I hate having to do this bad accent. I do."
Yeah, and then she pulls out her boobs and she has 3 nipples.
Yeah,
And
crazy. Which Kyle said something about getting an extra one to match, and I was like, at what point does that become udders?
Yeah, because cows do have 4. So. Or I guess the whole thing's one udder, but each udder has like 4 little teats.
Yeah. And then apparently she gives them good advice. I didn't really pick up on what all she said.
She's talking about like you have to get closure with confrontation, basically.
Yeah.
She's got to like confront Brandy and
TS is eating it all up, you know.
And then fucking Brody's just sick because she has 3 nipples.
Yeah.
I can't tell if like he's disgusted by it
or like slightly or he's ashamed that he's turned on. I don't know.
Yeah, he's like
Maybe
turning
both.
away from her and stuff, and it's like, bro, what the fuck?
Then at the end, he's about to feel her up.
Yeah.
But then TS pulled him away.
And then TS also says, don't ever lose that nipple. And then whenever they're leaving, Brody asks if she has any extra body parts.
She does not.
And you find out she does not. And then whenever they leave, you find out that it was just a
fake third nipple.
A fake third nipple. And she puts it in her mouth for some reason.
I guess it was like a gummy.
Is it a pepperoni? But the bottom doesn't look like
it
a pepperoni.
looked exactly like a nipple. So it might have been like a gummy nipple.
That's true.
I don't know.
She
maybe.
eats it, I guess. And then they get back to the mall. And TS is like, I'm going to get onto this show. That's what I'm going to do.
Their whole goal is to sneak onto the game show.
And there's some random...
Because they won't be able to stop us once it goes live.
Yeah.
It'll be live.
And there's some random dude in the parking lot that asks if he's the guy that...
Aren't you the guy that...
broke up with Brandy, and then he just punches her?
The shit out of him.
Yeah, I was like, that's weird. And then they kept going into the bookstore.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, Bob, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And they're like, this is the last place LaFleurs would look for. This is the bookstore. He's like,
well, they split up too. TS goes one way and Brody goes the other way.
Yeah, because Brody's like, yeah, I'm gonna get her back. You're just too much of a pussy to try and get Renee back.
Well, Brody and TS have kind of switched.
Yeah.
Like now it's like TS is like
TS
the overconfident one, like ready to do this fucking shit, and Brody's like, no, man, no.
See, he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna get Brandy back. Will you beat me back so we can beat me back at the stage so we can do the show later?
Yeah. Then they cut to the bookstore and it's Jay and Silent Bob, and they're looking at a nudie mag. And Jay says, dude, this looks like your mom. And then Brody's like in there with them. He shows up and he's like, what are y'all doing in here? And Jay says,
TS.
Oh, is it TS?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. TS shows up. And he says, well, the last place they'd look for me and this tubby bitch is the bookstore.
Yeah,
then it shows Brody.
Yeah, and he's staring at a mannequin with lingerie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stan Lee walks up and he starts talking to him.
And he's like, oh, yeah, the couple looks nice, don't they? And they're having this whole conversation.
And he's like, oh, I'm looking at this pink number, actually.
He's like, oh, that's pretty nice, too. But
and then he talks about
Spider-Man.
It reminds me of that issue that Spider-Man and
Mary Jane go to the lingerie store and the Green Goblin shows up and pumpkin bombs the whole place.
Yeah.
And that's when he realizes it's Stan Lee, and he accidentally stink hands Stan Lee.
And then it cuts to Jay backstage of the show, and he's talking to the guys that are on the show, 2 of the contestants.
Yeah, and he hands them...
He gives them a bunch of weed, I guess.
yeah.
Well, he hands them 2 bags. One has like I'm guessing coke because it's like white shit in one bag, and the other bag's weed. So, and then it pans back to Stan Lee and Brody. Stan Lee is talking to him about...
Brody's asking about Mr. Fantastic's cock first.
Yeah.
And whether or not it stretches
does it
also.
really stretch like everything else?
And then Stan Lee mentions another couple, and he's like, why do you talk about couples and love so much? And you find out that Stan Lee loves that shit. So Brody ends up telling him about Renee. A little bit, though, because he asks if he has a girlfriend. He's like, nah, we just broke up, whatever. But does the thing's cock, is it also made of rock, too? I need to know.
Right.
And Stanley's like...
I assume, because I figured he's all rock.
He's all rock,
Yeah.
of course. And the same thing with Mr. Fantastic. I'm sure
He's
his
all
dick can
stretchy.
stretch. You know? His
And
head can stretch, right?
And
His dick can stretch.
and also Stan Lee's beard's pretty sick.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I miss that old Stanley.
And then,
He starts talking about the girl that got away, and he created certain characters that dealt with the heartbreak, like Doctor Doom.
Yeah, wearing a mask to hide his insides.
And Bruce Banner.
Being a rage of emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also find out that Stan Lee got hella bitches, but the one that he wanted ended up getting married, so he went on with his life.
Yep.
Yeah, and he gives Brody some pretty solid advice. And I put Miss March tried to recreate this scene with Hugh Hefner, and it just didn't work.
No, at all.
And then he also says all the money, women, and comic books can't substitute for that one person. And then he stink palms Stan Lee again.
Yep.
Yeah.
But now Brody's determined to get Renee back.
Well, Stan Lee tells him that he would give it all up for just one more day with that girl. And
Which is like pretty much word for word. They ripped this out of... Or Miss March ripped this whole scene out of...
Basically, that girl was his busted up girl from Kentucky.
Yeah. Maybe we should have done this movie before we did Miss March.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, we didn't know.
Yeah, we didn't know that they were going to steal like half of this fucking movie.
Yeah.
And then you find out that TS actually put Stan Lee up to it somehow. Like, I guess he ran into him and asked him to do it.
Yeah.
And then Stanley's like, hey, yeah, I did, but I'm concerned about your friend and the questions he had about superhero genitalia.
He's like, he'll grow out of it.
He probably won't.
He probably won't, though, because he's
No,
like
because he's already
40.
like 18, still talking about it.
Yeah, but look at us. We're 28, and we still talk about the most diabolical things. So
It's true.
True.
what are you going to do, you know?
Diabolical dongs, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There you
bro,
go.
that should be our team name. So that should have been the name of our podcast.
Diabolical dongs.
The Diabolical Domes.
Probably would have been easier to get a logo out of that.
Oh, shit.
Not a safe for work one.
Well, we can just draw 2 lines.
True.
I like that.
do up, down.
Those are dongs.
And then if anyone asks, like, oh, it's just a mushroom.
And then the third one can be like a D that goes in between. Like there's like the 2. Here, I'll show it later.
Yeah, we'll draw it later.
Yeah, we'll draw it later. Anyway, so, yeah, he did it for free. Wait, what? Oh, sorry, I lost my place in the notes, guys. It goes to Bob and Trish.
Yeah.
And Bob's trying to Jedi mind trick again, because that's like a running joke this whole
Yeah,
movie as well.
and she's like, oh, I think it moved. And Silent Bob's eyes get all big. She's like, nah, I'm kidding.
And then Brody shows up, and he's like, hey, Trish, I know you just had sex with this guy and you recorded it. I need you to bring the tape. And she's like, okay, but it's at my house. And he's like, well, here, take the car keys, go get it.
She's like, I can't even drive.
And then she leaves. And then it cuts back to Michael Rooker, and he's going towards the executives to watch the show because he's getting ready to start.
Yeah,
and he's sick. He's fucking throwing up in a vomit bag.
yeah.
It's because he got stink pumped.
And then it cuts backstage.
And he ate it.
Jay got these
He ate the
guys
stink pump.
really high, and TS shows up, and he's like, oh my God, man, thank you. What do I owe you? And he's like, hey, man, free of charge. But next time you have sex with your lady, make her call you Jay. And then Brody shows up, and the third guy is also there.
Yeah, because TS is like, yo, there's only 2 guys. What happened to the third guy? And she's like, I didn't see a third guy.
Yep. And then he shows up, and it's the guy from Clerks who played Dante.
Yeah. And his name is Gil Hicks in this one.
Yep. And Brody starts like talking shit to him. And then the assistant shows up, the one that was holding the vomit bag from Michael Rooker. And,
And he said that Mr. Spinning's got like listeria. That's what it is.
Listeria. Didn't get the third guy. Assistant shows up, little bitch. They rock that motherfucker.
Punches him right in the face, and then Hicks is like, well, what are you doing? And they're like, shut the fuck up and get out there and just do the game show. Shut up.
And then it cuts to Silent Bob, and it shows that he's like rigging up a VCR. But while he's doing this, Kyle loved to point out that he literally was just like taking like a pair of tweezers and just kind of moving them around on the VCR.
Yeah, not doing anything.
Clearly was not doing shit.
Also, why was it duct taped up there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess to make sure it don't move, I guess.
And
And
then
then the game show starts.
the game show starts.
It's called Truth or Date.
The suits are on the stage. The suitors, I should say. And
Don't
Rooker's...
call him suitor number 2, though. It makes him sound gross.
The second suitor sounds better.
Yeah, because the host introduced the guys. TS is Doug, Brody is Rob, and Gil is Gil.
Yeah, Gil is Gil. And then Renee is in the crowd with Shannon. And it's also funny because whenever they announce Doug, Jay screams because it's TS and he's trying to get his girl back. Jay's like, do it, Doug! And then Brandy gets on stage and she's ready.
She's ready to ask some questions.
She's ready to ask some questions. And honestly, bro, I don't take a lot of notes through here.
Yeah, I didn't really.
Like,
either.
I'll try to kind of piece it together as much as I can. I remember she asked Suitor one a question, which is her ex-boyfriend, T.S.
Yeah, of like...
Like, what kind of car would you be or something?
Yeah.
He's like, one that you don't dump your boyfriend in.
Yeah.
Then she asked Brody a question, and Brody just says fuck on live TV, and I thought that was funny.
And then he's also trying to blow it so that way, you know, TS will win.
And then Suitor 3 is just a little bitch.
Yeah, Gil gets the question and he just like sucks up the limelight, bro.
Yeah, he talks about how like he would take her on this nice date, and Brody calls him out for his bullshit, and he's like, "You're the kind of guy that begs for sex." And he said, "I would know. We smell our own," which I thought was fucking hilarious.
And then she asks TS another question about how he would propose, and fucking Brody goes at Jaws at Universal Studios.
Yeah, and she's like, "What?" And then he talks about how Brody says that he wishes that TS wishes that Brandy would take her socks off during sex because it bothers him. And it's like, okay.
And he's like, hypothetically.
He's like, not that I would know, but... And then Trisha shows up with the tape, and she's like way up in the second story of the mall.
Yeah.
Brody motions to go
to the back.
Because the bigwigs are like, what's the funny guy doing with his hands?
Yeah. And then he shows up, or you find out And then Suitor 3 gets asked another question about like how he would kiss or something. He says he'd kiss like a jackhammer. Sounds like a fucking prick if you ask me.
Yeah, and then Brody's like, where do you come up with this shit, man?
He's like, well, he tells him that he doesn't kiss like that because he saw him kiss a guy backstage. And he's like, I didn't kiss a guy. And he's like, oh, so you hate gay people?
Yeah, because he's like, I'm not gay.
And he's like, oh, so you love gay people? And he's like, yes, I mean, no. And he's like, look at him. He can't even be comfortable with his own sexuality. And then it shows Trisha giving Jay the tape.
Yeah, she's like, I don't want to be here whenever this gets played.
Yeah, which I get.
And then TS is just asking a lot out there. And then they make fun of Gil some more, call him Rush Limbaugh. And he's like, I'm not Rush Limbaugh. He's all offended. And he's like, oh, so you also hate fat people. And then it shows Bob, and he's still upside down.
Yeah, and Jay throws him the tape, and then it misses and gets stuck in the steel beam post.
And then it's back to the show. And then TS and Brandy kind of start having like this whole interaction.
Yeah, they're going back and forth.
Like, were you ever in love? Is what TS asked her. And she says yes. Then he asks her what happened.
And that's when she realizes it's TS.
Yeah. Why did they break up? She says it didn't work out. She was unhappy. He says why. And then she calls him TS. And then Brody ends up yelling at Gil and tells him to shut the fuck up because he starts trying to talk, like asking if he can get any more questions. And then
she asks him if he would ever make whoopee in public, and he goes, well, I already did that once today. And then like finger guns at Renee
in the crowd. And then he tells a story about his cousin Walter.
Yeah.
And he's like, my cousin Walter jerked off in public once. He was on an airplane and the hydraulics went out. So they were going down, and he just decided to whip it out and start cranking down. And then he's like, and then everybody around him started just pulling out their shit and jacking off too. And then right before it crashed, the hydraulics kicked back on and everything was fine. So everybody just put their shit away, and nobody ever mentioned it again.
And then Gil was like, so did they come?
Yeah.
And he's like, Jesus, man, there's something you don't talk about in public.
And then
she asks a comic question to Brody
to find out who he is, like
yeah,
make sure that it's him.
And she's like, oh, how's your comic collection going, Brody?
He's like, it's going pretty good now. Wait, I don't collect comics.
Those are for kids.
And then she gets mad at TS because she realizes that it's TS too. She's like, oh, so you're coming on here trying to humiliate me on my dad's game show. And then Brody intervenes and is like, look, man, you guys fucking love each other. Like, you being stupid, man.
Yeah. And then also during this, Gil asks if he can have more questions, and all three of them scream no at him.
Yeah.
And then he tells them, like, hey, you guys are clearly in love. Like, just get back together, drop this bullshit, move on. And he's like, and I think all these people agree with me. And then all the audience is like, yeah, get your girl back. Fuck her.
And then he asks,
in front of us.
And then he proposes to her.
Yeah.
She says yes, and they kiss.
And then
Brody goes backstage and asks Jay if the tape's good to go.
And Silent Bob is reaching for the videotape with the force. He's trying to get it.
And cops show up to the mall. They drive up.
They run past Willis.
Yeah, Willem.
Trying to look at the sailboat. And he's finally like...
Well, Stan Lee walks by.
Yeah, he's like, oh, a sailboat. And this guy's had
Dude,
enough.
motherfucker crashes out.
Yeah.
He kicks it. And then he walks up to the game show and like starts crying at this little lever.
He's like, when am I going to see the goddamn sailboat?
But also during this time, whenever, like before he cuts to him backstage, it shows Brody on the stage with the microphone now. And he starts talking mad shit to Shannon. And talking about how much of a piece of shit he is. And then he talks about how much he loves Renee. But how she has something of his. And it's his heart, you know? And Shannon's like, all right, man, I'm going to fuck you up. And he starts to get up there to get on stage. And then the cops showing up, running in. And then it shows Willem kick the thing. And Silent Bob ends up getting the videotape somehow. I always thought when I was a kid that he used the force to get it. I don't know. That's what I like to think, that it finally worked for him.
Because he was trying.
And they talk about how Shannon likes to fuck girls in uncomfortable places, and Gil says, like, in the back of a Volkswagen.
Yeah, and Brody just looks at him.
And then Jay's looking out, and he's like, God damn, this is one wacky game show. He says that after they start the videotape.
Yeah.
Though. So they start the videotape, and it shows... Go ahead.
As the video is playing, Brody's like, that girl's only 15, and the cops let go of Brody, and they just arrest Shannon instead.
And he's like, 15? I thought she was 36. Which, honestly, she looks more like she's 36 than she does 15.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying that in, like, a weird way. Like, clearly this is a grown woman playing a 15-year-old.
Yeah. Well, all of these guys are, like, well over the age of what they're supposed to be playing.
Yeah, for sure.
But then Jay's like, whoa, this is one wacky game show.
And then Silent Bob's rope breaks.
Yep.
And it's funny because they're taking Shannon away, and Brody, like, tries to hit Shannon. And the cops are like, no, you can't hit a prisoner in police custody. And he's like, all right, can I just do it like one time? And they're like, all right, make it fast.
Yeah.
So he starts kicking the shit out of Shannon. And then it shows Brandy and TS one last time. And he asked her if she would have actually gone on vacation
Yeah.
with the guy that won the show. And she's like, I don't know, but I would have sent you a postcard just being like cutesy.
Yeah.
And then it shows Willem crying again.
Yeah.
And then it shows Jay and Silent Bob walking out, and you finally get your Silent Bob line from the movie.
Because he's like, oh, bro, you did it, the Force, man. He's like, adventure, excitement, a Jedi seeks not these things.
Yeah.
And I was like, goddamn, he's always dropping wisdom and cool
And
cool lines.
then Renee and Brody make up and kiss. And the TV bigwigs, they hated the show, but they loved
But they
Brody.
love Brody.
They
He
love
was like,
Brody.
you were funny, dude.
And then it pans to
Also, Brody invites Renee
To meet his mom.
to meet
Yeah.
his mother. Yeah, which is, the
The
fucking
big thing.
the whole point
Yeah.
of contention between the two of them.
And then pans to Brody hosting his own TV show. Suzanne by Weezer starts playing.
Suzanne.
He actually hosts the Tonight Show,
Yeah.
but he still lives with his parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I wrote all those down.
And Renee, like,
Becomes Brody's band leader
Yeah.
and was well liked by his mom.
And then you find out that TS and Brandy got married after graduation at Universal Studios, Florida.
Jaws.
And then, so I lost it.
What's better than proposing at Jaws? Getting married at Jaws.
True.
And then Trisha's
Romance.
Yeah. Then it pans to Trisha at a book signing. Her book spent a record of 72 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, and the movie will be out this Christmas. And then Shannon made
Shades of Grey.
and Shannon made a lot of new friends in Rahway State Correctional Facility. And then Willem eventually saw the sailboat, and he goes, "Really?"
Yeah, that part was funny.
Little fourth wall break.
And then
Funny.
it pans on a little monkey with Jay and Silent Bob, and it says, Suzanne, Jay, and Silent Bob. Well, that's a different story. And then the credits roll, and at the very end of the credits, it says, Jay and Silent Bob will return in Chasing Amy, which we'll get there.
We'll
Yep.
get there.
Probably going to shoot for that one in like May, I think.
Maybe. Look out.
Maybe June or July.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, by the way, it's lined up so far, it'd be May.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We can't promise anything, really.
Yeah, that's
we
true.
don't fucking know.
Yeah, we got work schedules and all that shit.
Work schedules and fucking movies that we don't know of that might come out that we decide we'd rather watch.
Yeah.
But that movie has been juiced.
Yeah.
I'm talking squeeze because that's all that's left.
Juicy bitches.
Squeezed
Yeah.
out of its love juice.
Freshly squeezed. I like
Yeah,
love.
I didn't like love juice.
No, this is movie juice, not love juice.
Well, it could be both.
Anyway, so Dylan went first last time.
It's my turn, I think.
You can go first this time, yes, sir.
It's a 7.5. It's like, because I don't want to get too nostalgic, but I do love this movie. It's a good one for me. And because I think 7's too low, and I think 8's too high, so I'm gonna go with the 7.5. It's fun. I like the characters. I love the world. It's fun time. I relate to the characters. 7.5.
So I gave Clerks a 7. I liked this movie more than I liked Clerks. I will give this movie an 8.
You know what?
Yeah, I liked this movie more than I like Clerks. But I do think that's my nostalgia speaking that extra point because I had never seen Clerks before. I don't think so. And I've always liked Mallrats, like because I saw it a long time ago and I liked it because I'd seen Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and
Right.
I was like, oh my god, Jay and Silent Bob are in this movie,
Yeah.
So,
Much more.
Which they're like in all of these.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. They're like the one.
but at the time I didn't know that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So yeah, so I'm gonna give it an 8. I really liked this movie.
I'm gonna go with a solid 7. Like I don't like this one as much as Clerks. I'm the opposite of you. I think this is probably one of the ones in this View Skew universe that probably gets looked over the most, probably.
Probably a lot of people do forget about it.
Because it's just I don't know. Because he had Clerks, everybody likes it. I've never heard people talk badly about Chasing Amy and Dogma, but I never really hear anybody talk about this movie except for my boys. Other than that, I mean, like, I think it's just one of those movies that just got lost in the shuffle. But it's not a bad movie at all. Like it's good. It's fun.
You guys ever feel like people are so fucking like dick riding on Clerks because it's such like an indie flick?
Yeah, for sure.
sure.
I think that.
I think it's one of those films that probably gets looked at when you're in like film school.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because it's like a good one location.
It's like a mom and
Film.
pop movie.
And it's like
Oh,
the whole
know?
point was to do it for as little budget as possible.
Yeah.
Like, that's why it made so much money is because the budget was so small that when it got played, like it really got fucking money.
Yeah.
And I think this movie definitely has more structure. for
It does.
sure.
It has more structure. I feel like it has a better story because they can
Oh,
do
yeah.
a lot more. That's why I like it more. I don't know.
I'm just more nostalgic with Clerks than I am this one because I've watched Clerks more than I've watched this one.
Right.
But we're all pretty close. Same ball.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
We all kind of gave it the
We
same.
all are pretty close.
Hell yeah.
Best friends.
Doing pods, watching movies, juicing movies.
Has anybody got anything else to add?
I think we juiced.
All right. Well, that's been another Movie Juiced. New episodes drop every Thursday morning.
Thursday.
Get y'all juice.
You can follow us on Facebook
We
at
got
Movie.
grape. We got apple. We got orange. I'm sorry, D.
You can follow us on Facebook at Movie Juice, Instagram, and Twitter at Movie Juice Pod. Still got that coming soon website, www.moviejuicepod.com.
I'm talking coming.
If you have any thoughts on movies we've already reviewed, or if you have any recommendations for other movies you want to see us review, if you just want to review this pod, you can email us, or if you have any suggestions for a logo, send those in too. We'll look at them, and if we like it and decide to use it, we'll send you some monies. You can email us all that at moviejuicepod@gmail.com, and if we like your review, we might read it on here. Just email us. We'd love to hear from you. All links can be found on our link tree. We are on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and YouTube. You can follow us all individually on Instagram and Twitter. Our handles are in the description below. We'll be back next week with the classic movie, The Wrestler.
In celebration of WrestleMania.
Yeah,
Let's go.
starring Mickey Rourke, who looks awful
You
nowadays.
said Ricky, and I was like, Ricky Gervais?
He also looked awful in this movie, though.
Yeah, I think he's always just kind of looked terrible.
Yeah.
Randy the Ram.
Yeah, but we're doing it, as you said, for celebration of WrestleMania, because we're all big wrestling fans.
Yeah.
And as always, I've been Dylan.
I've been Kyle.
And I've been James. And for one last time, this has been The Juice.